What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to my channel, Movie Files. We are back again with my weekly recap, breakdown, review of the latest episode of Hulu's Nine Perfect Strangers, and today we'll be breaking down episode 6, which was titled Motherlode, an episode in which we see the drugs are affecting everyone differently, but more importantly, I think I know what Masha's up to. We're going to break it all down here in this spoiler review, but before we do so, make sure you're checking me out on all my other social media accounts. If you all are new to the channel, well, welcome to the community. Consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell. That way you can get the alert for when I drop new content. If you all enjoyed this spoiler review of episode 6, well, make sure to like and share this review. It really helps out the channel a lot, but I also appreciate the support. And in those comments, let's talk about this 6th episode. Let me know what were some of the moments that you really enjoyed, some of the moments you didn't enjoy, and of course your thoughts and your theories and what you hope to see in the weeks ahead in the comments below. So first and foremost, I thought it was very interesting to name this episode Motherlode, because me personally, whenever I hear someone say, oh, I hit the motherlode, I'm always thinking like if they hit the jackpot, right? It's like a good thing for them. But then looking deeper into the definition of motherlode, it actually ties to the California gold rush, which kind of ties into Masha's mindset. She thinks she struck gold. She thinks she's found something new to kind of crack the code to people's depression and all the grief and the loss they've gone through. But I think there's more to what Masha's doing. I'll give you guys my thoughts in this review. But again, let me know what's your thoughts on the title. Obviously, your thoughts on the episode. Personally, just before I go into the breakdown, there were things I really enjoyed about this episode. And then again, I say it every single week, there are just moments in this show where I feel like the development is just cut short because we're just bouncing around from, I am at the point now, I've been saying it for weeks, that I have no idea why Ben and Jessica are on this show. Again, I know the vain nature of Jessica being social media driven. I don't really know what Ben's, besides being a husband that wants to support his wife, they're so pointless. And then even Heather, to a certain extent, really doesn't have much to do. She had a little bit more to do in this episode, but neither here nor there. There are things I really don't enjoy about the show, but there are just elements that the show really kind of hits the note on, and we'll break it all down. But again, I think last week was my favorite episode. Like, it's by far my favorite episode. But this episode was kind of in the middle. And we'll break it all down. But again, let me know your thoughts on the 6th episode. But let's get into the recap as we open up. And this episode was really, and this is one of the things I enjoyed, we finally get to learn more about Masha. Because all the other previous episodes, it's just been these little snippets, these little flashbacks. She's popping in and out, really not having like a character to really kind of latch onto. But this episode, we kind of get more of her insight, and I really think I have something that I want to share with you all at the end that I think she's leading towards. But we see that she sees this cake, she is like devouring this cake, and you know, she sees this little girl in herself, which initially I'm thinking, is it her? Is it a kid that she had in the past? Which we'll talk about that at the end. But we see that this is just her kind of going back to the little girl that's inside of her. But follow that up with Frances waking up. And this was one of like many odd, weird scenes in this episode. She wakes up to her catfish ex-boyfriend Paul, who's singing and dancing about the money that she gave her and all that stuff, and she inevitably flushes the little man down the toilet, which again just kind of speaks to these psychedelics are really affecting people differently in regards to, it speaks to their conscience in regards to, obviously she sees Paul as a little man, and obviously we know the other characters have their moments. So, but it was just kind of weird to kind of see that moment of him, and I wonder if she'll ever get closure with Paul, like if she'll ever have a conversation with him. But very interesting way to show her dreams. But we go from that to seeing Lars having his dream as he's a little boy being picked on and made fun of, and then we see Masha makes her way, which, by the way, Masha, you talk about code of ethics and morals. She just goes into people's rooms and doesn't make herself announced. But neither here nor there. She goes in his bed, and obviously this is an uncomfortable situation from him because he's like, what's going on? Why are you in here? Then she goes into the details that she's able to see his dreams and control his dreams by the chemical stimulus that she has him on. So again, it's just like, what is she doing to these people? Why is she doing this to the people is the big question, and we'll get to that at the end of this review. But as we kind of move forward, we see in this exact scene, she gives him the permission to have a phone that she gives him. I don't think it has like all the functionalities of the phone except that he can record things, and she's giving him the chance to build something special, to build something extraordinary, as she calls it, because she wants everything that's going down with this dosage being up to be documented for the world can see what Tranquillum's all about. I don't think this was a good idea. I think she's going to find her Tranquillum to be on World Star, because I don't think these people are going to end up coming out of this in a happy state of mind. But nonetheless, we move into morning time, in which we see the crew overhears Lars in regards to the dreams or her controlling the situation. And, for the first time, I think, in this entire season, Masha is actually attending breakfast, which kind of shows us she thinks she's cracking something. She thinks she's attaching herself to these people. But again, the thing that kind of trips me out as we see Frances talks about her dreams and going into what everything went through. And she's, everyone's laughing and joking about it. And Masha, is able to control their dreams. And to me, it could be the effects of the drugs, but these people aren't acting normal, in my personal opinion. Number one, the whole thing that they just kind of scaved over and kind of brushed over the fact that they were given drugs without their permission, that wasn't a conflict that it should have been, in my personal opinion, in the writing department. And then moving forward, they're having these effects with their dreams, and she's controlling their dreams, and they're just like, you know what? Well, they give me more of the drugs. Again, I don't know if that's the drug speaking or if that's just a lack of character, like human emotion, like reality stepping in and people like really speaking their mind that this is not right. But listen, they're all up for it and they're all going on this drug. It's like they're in the cult and they're sipping the Kool-Aid, as they even say in this episode. But neither here nor there, the only character that doesn't really seem to be affected by like having their dreams controlled is the two pointless characters, Ben and Jessica, and we'll get to Jessica a little bit later, but also it doesn't seem like Heather's having much of a dream-like state until later in the episode, as well as Carmel. I don't think that Carmel has had like a moment where she's seeing hallucinations of her ex-husband or her kids or whatnot. So those seem like to be the only characters that really haven't been affected dream-wise in regards to the drugs that they've been given. But in comes, the moment where Carmel wants to have a conversation with Masha. She pulls her to the side. And this is a big moment here. This is one of the moments I like because this kind of really gives us more of that backstory of these characters. So we find out in this moment that Masha goes in, she said Carmel comes in her office and says, hey, this new dose that you're giving us in, I don't want to conflict with the drugs that I take on a day-to-day basis, which I didn't tell you guys about. My bad. But she's like, no, we took your blood. We know what's going on. You're going to be fine. But let's talk about the root of the problem, why you're really here at Tranquillum. And we learn as an audience that Carmel is there because Masha actually had an affair with her husband, which I wonder if we'll ever meet her husband. Neither here nor there. That's huge. That is a huge thing because that obviously sets the tone. As Carmel says, you were one of the first ones, and that may have led him to really going out and finding this bimbo, as she calls, that he's with now. So that is a huge thing. And then Masha goes into, are you the one threatening me? And then we see Carmel like, no, not me. Me, the one that's choking people at breakfast weeks ago. But she makes it seem that she isn't the one threatening her, which I don't think it is Carmel. But again, that is a pretty big moment because we see Carmel going into, she wants to study Masha. She wants to learn about Masha because she feels like Masha is the reason why he went out to go search for this other woman. So she's trying to study her for she can become Masha, for she can get her ex-husband back. Out of all the people on this island, she is really kind of Carmel. I really hope things work out for her, but there's a scene later in this episode that points towards I don't think things are going to end well for Carmel, either for herself or her harming someone on this island. But it just goes to show you she is really she needs professional help, and I don't think Masha's the one to help her out. As Masha says, I'll never hurt you again. I'll vow to take care of you again. This is a big revelation. I think that Carmel and Masha, this relationship is not going to end on a positive note. But moving on to another person who's been very skeptical of Masha in regards to the doses that she's having them on, that is Delilah, as they're talking and discussing, again, the conversation at hand. And like, why is there so much urgency? Why are you upping the doses so quickly? Is there a money issue related to this? Which kind of brings me to Tranquillum. I want to hear about the previous guests. We obviously got the flashback about the guy that died, who we'll talk about in this review, but I want to know the success stories. I want to know the people that actually say that they've been healed, they've been able to relieve themselves of their trauma, their past. That's what I want to see in the coming weeks. But neither here nor there. It sounds like there may be a money issue, and this is where Masha brings up that the little girl at the beginning of the episode was like her as a little kid. She's trying to channel her inner little girl, but there is a little girl that she lost that we'll talk about at the end of the review. But we get this variety of scenes of Napoleon throwing up, doing the yoga with Yao, which he tells him that's a normal part of the process. And then we see, which again plays into my mindset, like the reactions that they're going to all have is going to be very different. And I think that one of them might actually die, like we saw with that guy that died in Masha's previous sessions. But we cut to Frances and Tony after weeks of us speculating. When are they just going to do it? The whole will they, won't they? They finally have this, which I thought the scene it was funny, but it kind of felt misplaced at the same time because obviously they're two comedians. They've worked together in the past, Melissa and the actor that plays Tony. And they're like doing this whole like leaning in, are you gonna kiss me? And she makes a joke about, like, she says out loud, like, he's leaning in for the kiss, and then they, neither here nor there, they end up kissing each other. But then this is where what I wanted to see last week, Tony goes into the conversation about him not wanting to continue to live his life, but now he seems to have new purpose. He has his new buddy in Francis, and he tells her, like, he inevitably wants to paint his house. He wants to get the dog, but also he wants to ask her out on a date. So we all know when it comes to thriller, suspense type of shows or movies, whenever two characters get on the same page, things don't turn out to be happily ever after. I don't think that they're going to end up on this or going off of Tranquillum a couple. We'll see what comes of that. But we follow that up with Tony again, or to say Lars and Carmel having a conversation, which really doesn't lead anywhere in regards to them having this relationship that has been growing since the first episode, but it doesn't really add much to the conversation. But neither here nor there. We move from that to a very interesting and weird scene. Jessica's in front of the mirror. She sees a mark on her nose. She starts to pick at it, and then her nose falls off. She's freaking out. Ben comes in there. Masha comes in there, and they're just like, "You're fine. Everything's okay. Trust me." And they're like, "I thought you just gave us, ecstasy." She's like, "No, I gave you the, the drugs you guys wanted to with the mushrooms." Like, "Okay, we're cool." Again, I don't mean to be like a Debbie Downer when it comes to Ben and Jessica, but I just truly feel like they are just being used for, like, something's going to happen to them that's going to probably be like a big thing, because at this point, 6 episodes in, I don't care about the characters. I don't know where they're going with the characters. Again, I know what Jessica's there for, the whole, social media and how it makes people think they're not pretty enough, thin enough, this, that, and the third. I get all that, but that's just that. It's just very surface level with those characters, and I just feel like whenever we shift to them, I completely check out, and I don't get a laugh for them. I don't enjoy the characters. I don't feel bad for the characters. I don't know the characters besides just the surface level things that they gave us. But I don't want to spend too much time on Ben and Jessica because the show doesn't seem to spend much time on those characters. So let's move on to the next characters as we go to the Marconi family, as Zoe wanders off by herself, and her dad and her seem to be the most like affected by the drugs until Zoe makes her way into the woods. And all 3 of them can now see Zach. So the whole thing last week, which was like the cliffhanger, which I was really excited for, what does it mean that Zoe's the key? Well, it seems like that's thrown out of the door because they're all the key now. They can all see Zach. And, Napoleon sees him. And then the big moment, this is a pretty big moment here, and a moment that I actually really enjoyed. I thought the show kind of really fleshed it out really well. Heather sees Zach. She goes into the conversation with him, and this is a big moment. He reveals, he takes out, obviously this isn't really him, but it recollects, I think this drug really ties into their subconscious and things they may have suppressed or trauma that they've buried and they tried to forget. But Zach brings up that the asthma medication that he was on, actually one of the effects was suicidal thoughts. So again, if you're a parent or a friend and you kind of knew about this, obviously you would feel bad for yourself. But I'm just kind of just like, what would have been the course of action? I don't know the severity of Zach's asthma, but obviously he would have had to take some type of medication for his medical issue, which again, I don't know the severity of his asthma, but I can only imagine if I were a parent how that would weigh on me. But it's just really interesting to know that Heather, again, we really don't know that much about Heather, but she buried that, right? She suppressed that. She buried that down. And obviously her and Napoleon are going to be at odds because he mentions in this episode, she's always the one that reads the labels, that knows the effects, that, would have stopped him from taking a drug if she would have been aware of it, which in this episode, she does admit that she knew that was one of the side effects. But again, we all been there, right? Whether it be we get our medicines and it sees all the effects, and we're just like, we watch commercials where she's like, lose 50 pounds, and the effects are buy it now for $19.99. So obviously we all have had that moment. We don't read the details and just think that won't happen to me, that won't happen to my son. But obviously things did, play out. Unfortunate for the Marconi family, which we see Heather have this panic attack. She goes back to the medical office, and this is where Delilah and Yao and them just like, we are not capable to handle this. We don't know what the side effects are doing to her. But again, it's Masha. She's the key. And I'm going to get to that here in a little bit. But we can't get over again, there was a lot of like weird scenes. The nose falling, the kissing scene, and then the pool scene that we get here with, we see Tony freaking out like, don't get in the water. Masha said not to get in the water. And that I thought that was just kind of, again, The comedy in this show just feels so misplaced. Like, it just doesn't land for me. Comedy's subjective. Some of you all might like it, but I feel like it's very misplaced. But we get the best character in the show having a really great moment, which is Napoleon. He's talking to Masha about his feelings, how he blamed himself for the death of his son, and obviously his son taking his life. But now the shoe's on the other foot, with now Heather being the one like responsible for his death, which I thought that moment was very sincere, very just, again, Michael Shannon. The two, no offense to the rest of the actors, the two best actors on the show, in my opinion, is Michael Shannon and Nicole Kidman, and I just think that that scene was just like the best scene on the entire episode for me personally. But he mentions that he can't forgive her, which I think might result to them maybe divorcing each other when they get off this island, if they get off of this island. But wrapping things up, Masha goes into... She's talking to Heather and Napoleon at this point. She goes into the science of the situation and how they are able to see Zach and how this is very, very, very rare, and she wants to help them through their pain and their grief, and that's the reason why she picked them. Even though the scene just kind of cuts from there, I assume that they said, yes, we want you to help us to be able to see Zach whenever we want to. Again, they don't like specifically say that, but I assume that they're going to say yes. But we end on the first time I think these two characters interact, which is Francis and Carmel. They're having a conversation, and Carmel's just like, oh, I think we're two of the same. We're dealing with this man issue and self-confidence issue. And then Francis is like, I don't know if you've noticed, but all of us have somehow kind of come out of this in a positive light, but you have seemed to have gotten worse as the weeks have gone on, which I don't think that was a good thing to say, Carmel. I think Carmel is going to be the one that's going to freak out on everyone, but we'll see how that plays off. She didn't seem to be too happy when she said that. But in the episode, we see Delilah and Yao having a conversation about the situation at hand. They mentioned the Connies, which I think is the family of the guy that died last week, and how they think, Delilah thinks that that's the family that's threatening Masha, which I said that last week, which I hope that we get to see the past people come into this situation to see how it affected them, if it worked, if it didn't work. But again, we see this big moment here in regards to, is Yao going to leave? Because Delilah wants to leave this Tranquillum. Is he going to leave with her, or is he going to have his loyalty towards Masha? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. But really cool. I love this song, by the way, by Dusty Springfield, The Windmills of Your Mind. I love that song so much. It fit very perfectly in this scene as we get a flashback of Masha and a little girl yet again, but I'm assuming that's her daughter. We'll probably get more clarification on it next week, but she's walking, her daughter's on the bike, and she gets hit by a car, and that to me explains why the Marconis are there, which kind of brings us to my big theory in regards to Masha. I believe Masha, in some way, she thinks she's helping these people, like, if they're suffering from bipolar, if they're suffering from grief or loss, like, she's helping them, but selfishly it's helping her. I think she's using all these people as like test dummies, as lab rats. We'll see. If it fixes them, kudos to them, but it's more or less to fix my trauma, to maybe make me be able to see my daughter. So she's using the Falcones as a way of their grief and their depression of losing a loved one, and particularly losing a son, losing a kid. She lost a kid, and she's using them, kind of exploiting their trauma, exploiting their grief, and testing on them so she can use this drug for she can see her daughter. That's my thoughts on this kind of theory. And I think that everyone that she has on the island is like a test subject, is like a lab rat, and she doesn't care if the results affect them, if they die like the Coney guy, or if they come out on the good side. It doesn't matter, because I want to fix my trauma, and I'm going to use these people to do so. So I think that's her big scheme, her big thing that she's trying to do. Let me know what you all thought of that theory. Let me know your pros, your cons, again, your thoughts, your theories, and what you hope to see in the weeks ahead. Again, some great moments in the episode. Again, having Michael Shannon have that conversation, having everything going on with other characters, minus the goofy Ben and, Jessica stuff and the jokes that don't really work for me. This was a solid episode. And again, I just want this episodes to just give me more of the characters, less of Ben, less of the jokes, more of the serious stuff at hand. So again, didn't hate the episode, didn't love it. I enjoyed it for what it was, but I want to know what you all thought of the episode in the comments. If you stuck around to this point in the video, I appreciate every single one of you all. If you haven't already, make sure to like the video, share the video, leave your thoughts in the comment section, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit the bell. That way you don't miss my reviews for the rest of this show and other movies and shows that I cover on this channel. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Hope you're staying safe, and we'll see you on the next video.